Good evening and welcome to DJNTV on Monday night with our Industry Spotlight Night. And tonight I've got the one and only Howard Wallach with me. Howard, good evening.
How are you?
I am good. I am good. Thanks for being with me tonight.
Happy to be here.
So for those who have never met you, Howard, they've been sleeping under a rock or something. Give us a little elevator speech of who is Howard Wallach. And then we'll get back into the history and kind of tell the story.
Oh, I'm just another guy out there who loves what he does. I've been very fortunate over the years. I built up a wonderful company and even survived this pandemic.
You survived it.
It looks like it's almost in our rearview mirror. Chicago is my home base, but I've been very fortunate in my career to travel, and I've had some exciting adventures, and I'm at a place now where I pay it forward. I do a lot of presenting, whether it's ILEA or NACE or MPI, and of course our DJ industry. Having a blast.
Excellent.
Having a blast.
So you're based out of Chicago. For those who, and of course, a lot of us got to see you were doing some work with the Marquee show there with Casey this past summer.
He's made me an ambassador here in town. Marquee has proven to be it's got a lot of legs. It's got a lot of stuff going on. Over the next couple of years, he's going to unroll even more education and networking opportunities. So for DJs, it's proving to be a great placeholder in your calendar to get some education and some networking with our comrades, our peers in the DJ industry.
Okay, before we get into your story here, Howard, let's take 30 seconds to talk about what is awesome in Chicago in the summer that a person needs to experience when you get into town.
Well, you know, when it's not a pandemic and they've eased all of the considerations, the festivals here in town are the best. You know, everybody knows we have Lollapalooza, but there's much more than that. There's Taste of Chicago, there's Blues Fest. I am a big fan of my hometown, and I've traveled extensively. It's a foodie haven. Every ethnicity, from bougie to street food, Chicago has it all.
Yeah, and when we've gone into town, we have not eaten at the same place twice when we've been in it, and it's been good stuff all the way around. And no, you don't hit Applebee's, you don't hit McDonald's, You don't know. There's much better. So Howard, let's jump into it. Let's wind the clock back. And what was some of the early, when you started to find an affinity to music, what kind of opened your eyes to music at a very young age that took us on this tour to becoming who you are today?
I think it begins even earlier. I'm pretty sure the friends I made in school would label me the class clown. Mm-hmm. You know, I think very early on, I seized eyeballs and I was a crowd pleaser. And as early as maybe 6th grade, I think like many of us, I was hitting record on the radio station and making my own mixtapes, if you will. The musical journey has always been a part of my life. It has always elevated me in every way. Music is a big and profound part of my life. But sadly, I don't sing and I don't play an instrument.
But you started.
I do get to share others' gifts, you know, on stage in large spaces.
Sure. So let's stay in that early days. That getting the crowd to laugh, that response. Thinking back to that, how did that feel? How did that really become something like you were like, oh my gosh, I like that?
I do know that my first wedding was so stirring and so intoxicating. I loved the minute-to-minute decisions. It felt like every 2 minutes it was an if-then. And the power of the microphone and the way that people responded to the songs, the order of them, the getting in and out of them, it really had a profound effect on me. It left me wanting a lot more. I loved pleasing. I loved the instant feedback, the kudos that we get. There are careers where people don't know how they're doing. They wait for an annual review or a potential raise opportunity. You know, John, in our career, it's instant feedback.
Yeah, it is.
Get a hug from the grandma, the mother of the bride, the bar mitzvah boy high-fiving you. It's
You know right away if you're doing well.
You become a kudos junkie, is what I'm saying.
When you were in your high school years, you started with the recording as we get those cassette tapes. Were you into drama or into the music program in school, or when did you kind of transition?
My high school, they had an all-student produced revelry, right? A whole production. It was called Yamo. And yeah, I was on the theater side of things. I loved being a goofball on stage and a lot of improv. I could not sing. I can fake dance really well. I'm very committed when I do dance.
Fake dance very well. I don't know if I've ever heard it described like that.
Yeah. People will say, he's a pretty good dancer. And I'm like, I gotcha.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I'm going to have to go find that and delete that. Hey, for those of you who are out there, by the way, thank you for watching. We've got a lot of people who've jumped in here. If you have any questions or any comments or anything, put that down in the chat, and that will all pop over to my computer here. And again, I've got a spam one here that I'm going to have to deal with. But if you guys can put those there, that would be awesome. And then we can kind of share those with Howard as we go along. So you were in the drama and doing things musically. Then it sounds like you enjoyed being in front of the crowd, and that's really become part of your soul. Did you do anything musically, or was it just that you couldn't sing and your dancing was there, and it became the music was part of what you needed to get in front of that crowd?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I relate very well to short attention spans, right? And I just found that being at live events, being at these special occasions, it just felt like such a privilege. To this day, I'm still honored when the phone rings and someone says, we really want you to help us organize and celebrate with our friends and family. And wow, you want me to do that? Even after all these years, right. I take it really seriously. And I'm very, intentional with how I put together the plans and how I execute. I really want to deliver. And this is even from the very beginning. I want to deliver an excellent experience, something that, they can hold on to and never forget.
So you came out of high school, and when did you actually start performing as a DJ type entertainer?
I was in college when a dear friend said, hey, I know this DJ company that needs help moving gear in and out of country clubs and hotels and restaurants. And I got along particularly well with the owner of this multi-op, and he saw it fit. He thought I had the it factor. He gave me an opportunity, and I remember he pulled me aside. He said, can you invest in records? Can you put together a vinyl collection? I was like, sure. I didn't even know what that meant. What did I know from record pools and the difference between 12-inch singles and remixes and B-side. It opened up everything, and I was just a sponge. Very early on, I'm from Chicago, so in the late 80s, Chicago house music hit. And of course, it was DJ music made by DJs for DJs. So all of a sudden, music was structured perfectly. It had intros, it had breaks, it had ways to get in and out that made our mixing appear effortless. That if you knew how to phrase mix and you can get in and out and 32s, it made even a layman, at that time I considered myself, a novice, a whole lot easier. And of course it was vinyl. Remember, John, we spun with cassettes and CDs and then MP3s and MP4. It just kept going, right?
Yep. So in college you kind of got into the DJ side of it. When did you get to that point where you were like, hey, this might be more than just a part-time job, that I can actually do this and do this as a main type of an occupation?
Well, I had this experience working for this multi-op, and through that experience, it led me to the world of nightclubs. I was very fortunate. Before I was 21, I was working in a very upscale private nightclub in the hot area known as Rush Street. And it was a private club, and it was very expensive to get in. Drinks were enormously expensive. And I was exposed to everything from political fundraisers to amateur boxing nights to galas and class reunions. And people would come up to the DJ booth and say, "Hey, would you mind?" And it became this thing, maybe I should have business cards. And it got to a point where I was with this multi-op where I had approached the guy that essentially taught me everything. And I said, it's my time. It's my time to go off on my own. And I didn't know anything. I think like most of us, appreciating that putting a business plan together, having some savvy and marketing and accounting, learning QuickBooks, like these were daunting propositions. What I knew was I could rock a room, and through word of mouth and just experiential marketing, very organically, I could build something, and it would become something. It would become a fairly big business and become my career. John, I don't know if this is true of every DJ, but I was blessed that my immediate family supported.
That was actually my next question. I wanted to go there. And what did your parents and family?
I think the expectations were, you got to be a professional.
Yeah, precisely.
Agree. You got to. And I took a left turn, and I really believed in the hospitality side of special events. I loved being a solutionist. I love sort of cracking the code on, could I do that? Could I work a trade show and be a crowd gatherer? I loved everything that was thrown at me. The shoe fit, and I approached all of these challenges with enthusiasm and, let's go. And I was, damn near hyper.
Sure.
Kind of like right now.
So those early days when you were doing the clubs and such, were you pretty much predominantly just music, or were you incorporating the microphone in those early days also?
I always incorporated the microphone, whether it was shout outs for birthdays and anniversaries. At this nightclub, it was not uncommon to get gratuities for barking out company names. We'd like to welcome the Dole Pineapple Company. So, it really, I've never been shy. I have friends that will say, "Did you ever get nervous?" My children would say, "Do you ever get embarrassed?" And I would say, What does that mean? Explain to me this embarrassed thing. I don't get it. Give me what is embarrassed. So my personality, I'm very comfortable from an early age of being in front of a crowd. So,
that's as we're drawing that picture.
Microphone? Are you kidding me?
It's like, I can be amplified and tell everyone's going to listen. This is awesome. Been there, done that. So. You started with the multi, and then you went off on your own, and you worked by yourself. But in time, you started to add and build a team. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I've always surrounded myself with young, enterprising minds. I've been very blessed and very intentional about having strategic relationships and really nurturing them. So, having guys that move equipment, having interactive dancers, having technical staff, having MCs and DJs, they have given me as much inspiration as I've given them. There's been a lot of back and forth. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, but at A to Z Entertainment, we've had very, very low turnaround, right? Some of them have been with me for north of 15 years.
Nice.
My staff knows how I feel about them. I gush about them. I promote them. I champion all of their pursuits, even outside of A to Z. Here's like a backstage pass, right? Behind the scenes, we have our own private Facebook group. We have staff meetings. We have these mastermind sessions. I recently, John, had what I call a temperature check. I sent out a survey to everybody, just getting a feel of their commitment level, what they would like if everything is good, what would be better. And it was this all hands on deck approach has been sort of a win-win. It's making everybody more successful, right? And I'm just very blessed that we move together as a group. So I'm doing bigger and bigger events that have larger and larger teams. These are sort of scalable solutions. I can't do everything myself. And through networking and collaborating, I'm here today to tell about it.
So you've developed a team over the years of these different people who are doing these different roles within the company. Beyond the Facebook, I mean, how much time are you able to invest and pour back into that team? As you mentioned earlier, keeping everyone on the same page. Obviously, Facebook helps, but time is needed. And how much do you think you're investing in keeping them together like that?
Well, ultimately, everybody is motivated differently, and I find that as much time as I can give them one-on-one seems to be the right recipe. But we do try to have group activities. We make videos together. We have pizza parties. In general, there's a camaraderie. There's a couple of groups in town like us that have rosters of interactive staff, and we've had softball games against them. We've bowled with them. The idea is that, we're a team. We call it the A to Z fam. Hashtag AZ fam is our private one.
Sure.
But the gist of it is, we know we can move mountains when we work together. That you can only go so far on your own. But when we work with each other and for all the right reasons, a lot of good comes out of it.
So now, how does the moniker of Top Dog, how does that fit into this? Kind of bring us on with that story.
Well, just a lot has happened because of my staff. Some of the young folks that work for me will say, God, everybody knows you. Wherever we go, that they know you. You're like the top dog. You're like the mayor wherever you go. And I say to them, well, there's a lesson in that, right? That, your energy precedes you. So, you should be a top dog. You should be that person also. Wherever you go, be the top dog. In fact, John, it was my staff that actually convinced me to speak on stage at these conventions, right? Saying that I had good inspiration and I'm good at challenging my peers, and they thought I should do this nationally.
Sure.
And that's maybe 8 years ago how I got started on the circuit.
Very nice. Very nice. So it became kind of is it something that they would just refer to you then as Top Dog as you've been developed?
Yeah. And then they had nicknames. So I just took it over and made it my, and just so you know, this is before Snoop D-O-double-G, right? I'm D-A-W-G.
Oh.
I have a whole thing where I tell them how to be a top dog, how to deliver the customer experience,
which is hugely important. Kind of going more than customer experience was taking me into a direction, I think, of mentors or influences that have really been instrumental in your growth as a entertainer, but also as a business. Who are some of the people that you have looked up to over the years?
Oh, wow. Well, I'll say a few names out there. I'm a huge fan of people like Randy Bartlett and Brian Buenasasi, Scott Favor, Bill Herman. These are just some larger than life humans. They are titans not only in the industry, but they're great people. A dear friend who I look up to, Marcello Pedalino. Every one of these guys has had tremendous, they probably don't even know how much effect they've had on me in terms of carrying myself, whether it's with the vendor team, my friends, my family, and of course my staff and my clients. But in short, these are some real powerhouses.
Mm-hmm. Checking here. Okay. Just follow. I've got the chat just going and making sure that everything, what's going there. So you mentioned, of course, a number of different names. Which area, as far as obviously you're very energetic with your performances and that area of it. The sales side of it, obviously there's been business lessons. We talked a little bit about that. Which of those areas was really there's one side that's going to be more natural for you, and one side that is a little bit more of a struggle, for lack of a better way to describe it. How did kind of getting the balance of those in running the business? How did that all come together?
It's true. I mean, even just as a performer, am I the technical guy? Am I the personality?
Right.
Am I a musician? Some DJs are so intuitive with producing beats and creating their own tracks. I'm sort of an OG when it comes to blending. I don't use all the effects on the board. I don't scratch. I'm a programmer when it comes to the DJ side of things. But I think in my DNA, when it's all said and done, I have a little of left brain, a little of right brain. I can be practice good habits. I can be very proactive. I recognize my role as being of service to others. And so on the one side, creative, but on the other side, paying attention, being an active listener. Growing in my business has helped me become a real advocate, being sort of a knowledgeable resource for those around me, inside and outside of work. I pride myself on being a problem solver, responding quickly. I like to think I'm human and vulnerable. I let anybody who asks behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. My nature and something I speak to is about being proactive, anticipating trends and needs. And most importantly, I think that whether it's the performance side or the business side, I'm honorable with my word. Mm-hmm. I really try to hit it out of the park for all of my engagements. Every project that has my name on it, I get quite passionate about it.
Sure. But then you've got a level that you're of expectation that people are, the word of mouth and different things are expecting.
Correct.
And you have to be able to maintain that, otherwise we're not in a business for.
Well, that's the trick, right?
Yeah,
that's
for sure. I got a few questions here. Let's talk a little bit about longevity. Both of us have been in this industry for quite a long time. How have you been able to keep that energy level and that enthusiasm up to where you are today? Because I've met you in person on many occasions, and you're not the wallflower guy who's going to go take a nap after 10 minutes. So how have you been able to do that in a longer career?
I mean, what you see is what you get with me. I'm all in. I'm awake. I'm alive. I'm adventurous. I'm curious. All of these things are true. It's not an act. I mean, mm-hmm. I am who I am, right? I think the longevity is due to a number of things, right? It's being consistent. I am a power networker. I am not shy to collaborate with any team, any mm-hmm. general contractor. I find myself in the shoes of being sort of a brand ambassador wherever I go. So if it's not for my brand, I am rah-rah for whoever I'm working for, and I'm very committed to that. And so I don't have any magic sauce except that I really love what I do. And mm-hmm. If you met my brother, if you met my sister, if you knew my father, I think it's in our DNA. Okay. We're all sort of this light. We're all sort of this, have this charisma.
So let's talk it from the health aspect of it. I mean, there's obviously the body needs to be taken care of. What kind of things are you doing to keep yourself physically in the game as well as on the business side, as you just were referring to?
I was an active athlete. I no longer, but I have 6 half marathons under my belt. I have 7 triathlons under my belt. I have notoriously enjoyed swimming, but I've been a little bit lax of late. Mm-hmm. I'm very proud to report to everybody watching. I've enlisted myself in August of 22 into a Tough Mudder. If you don't know what that is,
explain what that is.
It's a running event with quite a few obstacles, and I did it to get myself in the right mindset. I know that with that in my calendar, I will assuredly get back into better habits of eating, sleeping, stretching, and getting myself in great shape. I'm not in bad shape right now. I never got COVID. I've been reasonably healthy throughout all of this, but we could always do more, right?
Sure.
We could always aspire for even better.
So you mentioned, of course, that a challenge, putting a challenge out there inspires you. I mean, does that carry over into the business side of it? That challenge of building bigger and better and more successful and networking more, is that a driving factor for Howard?
Bigger, no. Better always. I want to be efficient, and I want to serve my clientele the very best way that I can. So everything from, this beautiful cloud-based CRM to artificial intelligence, every tool I can possibly use, the QR code, the touchless contact, every way that I can make the experience easy and smooth and noticeably better, I want in. I want to know all about it. Tell me what I got to do. So I remain a work in progress, a student of all of these things. Bigger, no. I don't know that I'm not going to open up in another city or anything. That's not my aspiration. At this point, I just want to do everything I can. I want to, if I promise it, I want to deliver it and then some.
So, and when you're promising, or when you're handling these sales, let's talk a little bit about that, because that's an evolving process for most businesses. How has how are your sales and handling of sales today? Does it differ from those early days when you were just getting into this?
Well, I think like young DJs, all of us would sell packages and based on time, based on what. I don't do that anymore. This is a bigger discussion, but the gist of it is I want to be a solutionist, right? I want to ease their pain of whatever they're putting together. There are some things that I want to have control over. I'm not willing to plan their menu or get their invitations. I don't want to deal with transportation, right? Those are things I'm not going to do. But in the realm of streaming, dry rentals, labor, trucking, power, video, lighting, audio, all these things, content creation, if I have the right alignment, I'm willing to take on things that are not necessarily inside these four walls, right? That it has evolved. Like I said earlier, having key relationships is really integral to how I've lasted so long and how I'm able to deliver with an exclamation point, right? So I'm about solutions that become agreements. My contracts today are very different. So for example, I stopped using the word deposit and retainer. If it helps anybody out there, I call it an initial payment. And we're going to start our relationship, and you're going to benefit from our creative planning time together, right? Echoing Brian Buenasasi. I think it's key that we educate our clients that they're paying for our instincts, our savvy, and our experience. A lot of them are focused on what equipment are you bringing and how long are you going to be there. That's a very small part of the equation, right? And I think that a smart client is a happy client, because ultimately I want to be transparent. I want to give them as much knowledge as I can. We're not working from 7 to 11. Our punch list starts earlier that week. Our prep starts earlier that month. And the day of, we're starting at 1:15 in the afternoon. Your event that ends at 11 has me home at almost 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, precisely. That's much more.
So I speak to that.
For sure.
That's different. I mean, when I was young, it was, you need a 3-hour DJ. It's $700.
Yeah. So much per hour now if we go from there.
And think about this, right? That when we first started, I don't know that I was that presentation oriented, right? Okay. We knew about cable management and taping things down securely, but now very focused on we live in an Instagram world. We want to look phenomenal.
Yes.
We want to put our best foot forward. I love all these things that I see on online. DJs being so proud of their investment and the way they put themselves out there. Beautiful, beautiful presentations. And I'm a fan. I try to like all their posts and support that because I think it's smart.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great step. It takes that level of professionalism up for sure. Okay, I've got 3 more areas, Howard, here, and we're going to go a little bit longer, but this is good. This is great stuff.
Go.
You networking. You kind of, I think, did you use the phrase power networking? I don't remember exactly how, but you really, that's a big part of you. Let's talk a little bit about how you approach networking and how you use that to your benefit.
In one word, it's being a connector. Being a connector. The approach to networking shouldn't start with, what can that person do for me? But flip the script and say, what can I do for that person? I have found the magic of networking, whether it's with the Chamber of Commerce or any of the networking groups that I am, and I'm in quite a few. I do a lot of early mornings, a lot of coffees, a lot of one-on-ones. And the goal is to be a connector, to really hear who is an ideal match for you and how can I make an introduction. Mm-hmm. I use social media, I use LinkedIn, and one of my top dog secret sauce recipes is after I meet someone, I try to put in my calendar a follow-up. Something that we talked about at that meeting, something that was critical, and I try to put it in my calendar and then have a follow-up. And it resonates.
Sure.
That echoes, as my friend Steve would say, it boomerangs. And the key here to networking is when you are a connector and you are paying it forward. I have countless examples of people that keep me top of mind because they like me, they trust me, and they feel like I would love to do something nice for him too.
Sure. Excellent.
In circles that I otherwise would never get in, mm-hmm. I've had access to.
Very nice. And I think that's a lesson a lot of younger DJs would behoove learning quickly. And speaking of younger DJs, if you could go back in time and give some advice, like one little thought of advice to a younger Howard. So we're going to go all the way back to those early college days, and you could say, hey, this is something that will make your life so much better.
You can't do everything on your own. You need a mentor. You need to be motivated. You need education. There are so many wonderful tools out there, whether it's YouTube or the trade shows or programs like yourself. There have been amazing dialogues offered online because of you. And I can't say enough. You cannot live in a bubble. You can't live in your own head. Mm-hmm. Have as many conversations as you can and be open-minded. Never be the smartest person in the room.
You mentioned resources, and actually this was something I was thinking about earlier when you were talking, is because a lot of DJs who are just starting out, 10 years or less, they've always had this YouTube thing. They've always had this Facebook thing. In those early days, and you mentioned you kind of weren't, it wasn't that sharing. How were you getting information in those early days to improve what you were doing before the internet type of access like this?
I talked to non-event people. I learned from other people in sales, other people that were, the vibe they were putting out mm-hmm. is they were do-gooders. They were connectors. They were adding value, right? Everywhere. I'm very attracted to people that walk the walk.
Sure. And
outside of our industry, I found a lot of common threads. There's a lot of principles that just apply universally. Mm-hmm. And it made an impression on me.
And that's very interesting because that's really how, for myself, I had the similar situation. Is we didn't talk to each other as DJs in the area. It was that competition, but going outside of the industry and talking to either a maybe the similar but a different aspect of the wedding, a different vendor, talking to photographers or something, that would happen. But today it's
absolutely true.
Such a different world. You can, that's at your fingertips. Crazy. Let's talk a little bit, Howard, about giving back. You've mentioned, you've kind of alluded to that a little bit, of giving back in the industry with educational things, but let's go outside of the industry. What kind of passion projects or things have you done over the years where you've been able to give back to the community that you can talk
Well,
about?
it does lie inside my career because I have the ability to provide, wonderful tools, whether it's a PA system or lighting. I've been very involved in quite a few charities and galas and fundraisers where I am maybe charging far less than I normally would.
Right.
Sometimes losing money because it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not beyond me if I believe in a project to try to be on the planning committee and try to navigate for the most optimum, conclusion, the best possible results. So, in my professional life is where I've been able to be giving. In my personal life, like many of us, I've done the walks, I've done the runs, I've tried to raise awareness, but it's A to Z Entertainment. My adult experience as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, as an entertainer, where I've found the most good. I can do a lot of nice things for organizations.
Certainly. Yep. Using those tools and those gifts to give back is a great community service and benefit. That is for sure. Looking forward, what is on the future? You mentioned that you've been speaking more and getting involved in that aspect of it. What's kind of coming up next for Howard?
I'm going to be very excited when this career feels like we're back. We're not quite out of the woods yet, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of unknowns with what's happening, and this is true outside of the USA. It's everywhere. I was speaking earlier that it's really unusual when you're used to getting calls for events that are happening 4 months to 22 months out.
Yeah.
That's the normal, right? And now the inquiries are coming in, groups are planning these milestones and these events inside 9 weeks. And it's just a very different experience. It's making me tough. It's making me creative. There's a lot of logistics. There's a lot of moving parts when things are happening so quick and in the very near future. So in the biggest possible picture, I am looking forward to when groups and conventions are saying, we are ready to plan and invest in, this wonderful event that's a year and a half out, and that we can put all of our thoughts into the best possible results for that. We're not going to cut corners. We want the best.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, boy, I think we all do. I think we really miss that whole idea, because as you're describing that, and then there's that little nagging part in the back of your head that's thinking, and then someone has whatever, and we can't do it. And
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say no to groups. I wish I could take a poll out there and ask the DJs that are watching this, the mobile entertainers that are out there, how sad is it to have to say no to people?
Mm-hmm.
This last October 29, October 30, I lost count how many events we turned down. Now I feel like I probably could have charged double
right, yep.
for those dates, because I didn't know they were going to be so absolutely packed. I mean, we were at capacity, and it's a bit much. I mean, you don't want to say no, but when you get seasoned and maybe a little bit more, you realize you have to say no. You can't be everything to everyone, so you learn to say no.
Yeah, that a person does, and it can be tough, but yeah, maturity gives us that ability.
Maturity.
Maturity.
Seasoned. I like that word. Seasoned.
Season. See, now season just sounds. I think that sounds old. Mature. Howard, thank you much for being with. If people want to reach out and have ask questions and or talk about the White Sox or the Cubs or whichever, the Bears, whatever. If they want to talk, how can they reach out to you?
Well, I am on social media, but I will disclose my cell phone. I will let anybody out there who wants to reach me have direct access. The best way is to text me. I'm here in the States. I'm here in Chicago. That best phone number, 847-878-4919. Howard Wallach, your top dog.
Kate, final question. Who makes the best pizza in Chicago?
Listen, pizza is not the big deal here. It's the illusion that it's a big deal.
It's the illusion, but for those coming in.
Malnati's, it's Pequod's. Let me tell you something. You come to Chicago, I'm taking you for Italian beef.
Italian
That's
beef.
That's what we're doing.
I think I've heard of, if I'm not mistaken, I think Casey mentioned the Italian beef thing. It's a little bit different than
Listen,
yeah.
I have very dear friends in Philadelphia. Very dear friends. And I'm telling you, that Philly cheesesteak got nothing on a Chicago Italian beef.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I'm telling you right now.
Looking forward to that time when we can get together and do that again.
Want beef? I got a guy.
You got a guy. I'll get you hooked up. Howard, thanks again for being with us. And thank you guys for being with this evening. We're going to be back in about 20 minutes here at the top of the hour with our next show tonight. You can go out to youtube.com/discjockeynews and that video player will be up. Howard, have yourself a wonderful evening and thanks again for being on.
You too. Thanks, John.
All right.